In Minnesota, the entire state has been turned upside down. Trump is going to win Minnesota. And when he wins, he's going to win Minnesota. Look, 8 mayors, elected Democrat mayors in the Iron Range area, that's what runs Minnesota. People don't understand. Minnesota is rich in iron, and you need iron for steel, and you need steel for everything. Sure. And so that's what makes Minnesota tick. And 8 of these important small-town mayors right in a swath right across the Iron Range have come out and endorsed Trump. Jason Lewis, who lost his seat in the House in a close race in 2018, which was a bad year for Republicans. Let's face it, it was. Okay. Jason Lewis is going to win against essentially an unknown senator. I mean, of course, she's known Smith. Of course, she's known there. Tina Smith is known in Minnesota, but she's really not much. And when you consider what has gone on in Minneapolis and what has been proved with Ilhan Omar, there's another seat gone. Now, let's go next door to Michigan. Don't believe anything about Gary Peters, the Democrat incumbent, winning over John James. Who's John James? John James is a former fighter pilot for the Air Force. He is an entrepreneur that has a business. I think it's an insurance business. He employs about 30 or 40 people. He has a beautiful family. He's very well off. He happens to be an African American. Now, in 2018, which was a bad year for Republicans, nobody knew who he was, and he lost by just 6 points. Okay? Well, now, what the media never mentions, I know why, but never mentions that every year in January, there's a poll done of people are asked amongst senators who are going to be up for re-election during election years, who has the least grounds for being reelected? Who deserves reelection the least? Who deserves it the most? Gary Peters from Michigan. 29% reelect number. 29% said he should be reelected. 71% said no. So how is he going to win? Not going to win. Not going to win. So, listen, and Trump is cleaning up in Pennsylvania. The J.P. Morgan analyst said that although Trump won by 44,000 in 16 in Pennsylvania, he's on track to win by 240,000 this time around. Wow. Yeah. So,
hey Kevin, excuse me, I have a question. You noticed that apparently one of the campaign officials, I don't know if it was the campaign manager for Joe Biden, said, "Hey, folks, it's a lot closer than the polls are indicating." I think they realize that this is science fiction. These polling numbers are fictitious, and if they want their guy to win, then they're gonna have to really wake everybody up and say, "Hey, listen, it's dire," right?
Well, yeah. Look, here's another thing too. Imagine if I'm going to use a sports analogy here.
Sure.
People that know a little bit about professional football, I think there's 30 teams in the NFL. And anybody that knows about professional football a little bit knows that on the entire planet Earth, of, like, I don't know, 9 billion people, whatever it is, there are not even 30 men who can play NFL level quarterback. Oh, you're always going to have somebody with a uniform on that says quarterback, but probably only a little bit over half of the teams in the NFL have a real quarterback. Okay, now let's look at how the Democrat primaries in their clown bus worked out. You couldn't call it a clown car because there were too many of them, so they had to make it a clown bus. Okay, so Joe Biden got into the race because they knew then that the good guys had this information. So why did he get in the race? Well, he got in the race, and besides, when I say this, this also goes for our pal Spartacus, Cory Booker in New Jersey.
Yeah.
The Democrats have noticed that if they announce to be for president, even for 15 minutes, that gives them immunity from investigation. Because what they can say is, you're just investigating me because you know I'm going to wipe the floor with Trump. Okay, so Joe had to get in to keep him and his son, his brother Jim, his granddaughter Naomi, and various and sundry other hangers-on and extra Biden family members from going to prison. So now nobody of any import. Remember, I've been a paid political consultant. So trust me, those that are listening, I know what I'm talking about here.
Right.
By the time Biden got around to drafting, if you will, now this is the political and football analogy, there was nobody left to draft to run his campaign. And here's the proof. Listen, if the Democrats were serious about backing this guy, they would have gotten Carville, Begala, and Axelrod to run his campaign. And they would not be making the stupid mistakes that a bunch of kids who were in college 12 and 15 years ago are making. They're running Biden's campaign as if it was a poll and Twitter was the arbiter of what's going on. So mistake after mistake after mistake. So that's what's happening. So that's why all of these, they're like rookie mistake. Of course, these people have no business being in the top level election war room, but yet they are.
How did that happen, Kevin? That's weird, yeah?
Well, I just explained it. It happened because there was nobody else left. I laughed about 3 or 4 months ago. It seemed to me that Carville was openly campaigning to get in because it would have been a no-lose situation for him because he certainly could have helped Biden a little bit. It's still going to lose, but he certainly would have helped. And Carville would be the king of the Democrat Party, whatever's left of it after November 3rd. He'd be the king for the rest of his life because he came to Joe's aid. But he was too stupid to recognize it.
Right, but no, sure. I mean, but my question is that, of course, the other candidates crashed and burned. All of a sudden, out of the blue, Joe Biden rose to the top. At that point, you would have thought, well, these other candidates' teams, campaign managers are available now. It's weird. How come they didn't somehow move into those positions? How come they weren't recruited? How come they didn't become, the A team that Biden needed?
Look, in their hearts, they never believed that Trump could be beaten. They didn't know how bad the coronavirus would be or how not bad it would be. here's another. I'm glad you said that. Remember little Michael Bloomberg?
Yeah, sure.
I talked this over with my son, who is also a political consultant, and we laughed. Little Michael got taken for such a terrible ride. These guys were thieves from day one. He couldn't get himself elected as the doorman in a cat house, okay? And nobody could do anything with him. You saw him get emulsified in like 35 seconds by Pocahontas, okay, in the first debate. Because he's a rich guy, and nobody ever talks to the rich guy like that. So he had no experience. He got the crap punched out of him right away. And you know what? Those guys signed contracts that kept them on the payroll, regardless of whether the candidate dropped out or not, right through November. So they've been getting paid. They've been getting stupid money for months. When did that happen? Like in March or something like that? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and they had because they knew he didn't have a chance. So that's what's happening. You have a 38-year-old running Biden's campaign, and it looks it.
Yeah, sure. Right. So Biden is doing badly. And now this is a phenomenon that happened in 2016, Kevin, that you identified, which is when they do polling, they deliberately include independents when they take when they do the sample, right?
Well, yeah.
So is this happening now too?
Bill, let me explain that. Yeah, that's this poll. This poll over here deliberately over polls the mom's basement crowd. The like 18 to 25s who are not going to vote. That's not me saying it. Not Kevin Collins is not saying that. That's coming from Gallup. That's coming from Zogby. That's coming from the Democracy Institute, and it's coming from Pew. One of them, I think it was Gallup, said that amongst the group of people who responded yes most often to the question, responded no most often to the question, do you intend to vote, was the young voter. And they are not expected to show up in numbers that are reminiscent of 2020. 2000 rather. Yeah. So, and again, I think that how did this team of children who were running Biden's campaign and working his head, I think that they were kept in the dark. I think that the old bulls were smart and said, okay, this is a hanger. Biden's a no miss, but we want to bring you along as a coming star. So you just take it. All that glitters is not gold. One of those things. That's what happened.
Right. Okay. So then you think that now there's also another factor in surveys and assessing the state of play of a campaign, and that is voter enthusiasm. Where do you see voter enthusiasm at right now? All
right, let's go to voter enthusiasm. A little background. We used to look at voter enthusiasm. When I say we, I'm talking about the political consultant class. And I'm talking about in the 90s and up to the early 20th century, 20s, okay? We used to look at, like, if somebody, one side or the other, had an edge of about 6 or 7 points, that was scary time. That was wow. If it was on your side, you could start making your happy dance. If it was on the other guy's side, you got to figure out what to do to try to mitigate it. Okay, now, in 2006, we knew that the Democrats were going to retake the House because they were enjoying an absolutely unheard of advantage of 14 points of enthusiasm. That meant that, let's just make it easy to understand. Let's say 50% of Republicans were either extremely or very enthusiastic to vote, but 64% of Democrats were either very or extremely enthusiastic to vote. 14-point spread. And of course, that year, the Democrats retook the House. All right. Now, nobody has said, nobody in the media, nobody on their side has said that the Biden has strong enthusiasm behind him. Nobody said it, because it's too big a lie. Now, during the summer, it bounced around. And I can explain it quickly. The Democracy Institute does terrific work. They pinpointed one of the only 2 or 3 that said, yeah, Trump's going to win in 2016. The Democracy Institute report for the month of July gave Trump a 42-point edge in enthusiasm. Now,
2020.
Yes. So
wow.
It has since shrunk all the way down to 34. People say, oh, yeah, Biden's picking up. There's momentum. No. The reason why it's down to 34 is because in the early part of the summer, Democracy Institute was just polling Trump versus Biden head to head. Now they've thrown in like the Green Party or some other anti-American party, and these dopes in the like the Constitution Party and this party and that, because they're so much more conservative than anybody else. They'll help burn down the country to prove something. I don't know what it is, but so they threw in.
How devoted to principle they are.
Yeah, libertarians. That's another thing, who I think are less respectable than Democrats. Yeah. Well, at least the Democrats admit who they are and what they are. The libertarians are basically full of crap. They're just Democrats who don't want to admit what they are. So when you see these close races where a Republican won by or a Republican lost by 3 points and the Libertarian got 4 points. Oh, if the Libertarians would only have joined. No. If the Libertarians voted their true self, the Democrat would have won by 7 points, because that's what they are. They're sideways Democrats. That's all they are. Anyway, so what the guys at Pat Besham at Democracy Institute did, he made it a 4-way race. That's why the national number went from 49-45 Trump to 46-45, because these knuckleheads, those votes come directly out of Trump and directly out of America's hide and directly out of America's future. So all you libertarians there, you better think twice about what you're doing. But now, let's say it's 34 points. I just said 14 points was the all-time record, and the president just said that the other day, that it's an all-time record. I knew that. But, these polls that you're seeing are not polls. They're not polls. They're just bits of propaganda put together. I mean,
Sure.
you have Charlie Cook. I think it was Tuesday. This race is over. I know it was funny. Limbaugh dug out the fact that almost to the day, 1 day off, 4 years ago, Charlie Cook declared the race over, that the Democrat would win. Rupert Murdoch says, he said the Democrats are Biden's going to win in a landslide. Maybe he'll win in a landslide in D.C., and he'll win by a landslide in, I don't know, Illinois.
Massachusetts,
But
Rhode Island.
He ain't winning a landslide in America, that's for sure. Okay, some other numbers that are easy. I'm talking a lot of inside baseball here. Let me give you some numbers that are easy to hang on to, gang. Okay, the two 56s. All right, the first 56 is that 56% of the people who answered Gallup's poll said that they are better off today than they were 4 years ago. Now let's put that in perspective. First of all, it's far and away the biggest recent number. All right. In 1984, when Ronald Reagan first asked that question, the response was 44% said, we are better off now after 4 years of Reagan. And Reagan won 49 states.
Wow.
Well, Trump is 12 points higher than that. 12 points higher than when Reagan won 49 states. I'm not saying that this is going to be 49. I'm not saying that. I'm just merely pointing that out. Okay. So that one never misses, by the way. Here's another one that never misses. The other 56% of people, when they answered this question this way. Regardless of who you want to win, who is going to win? 56% said Trump. That has never been wrong.
Where was this? When was this question asked? When was this survey conducted? Which month?
Wait a minute. Those are Gallup questions. Okay.
Right.
All right.
But Kevin, I have a question. When was that survey taken by Gallup? What month?
It's been in the last 2 weeks.
Okay. Wow. So that's very current.
Yeah, it's totally applicable. Totally. Here's another number. 66. The Democracy Institute projects that Donald Trump will get 66% of the Catholic vote. Now, no Republican who has gotten at least 49% of the Catholic vote has ever lost. Now, that doesn't mean that the Catholics vote means you're going to win all the time. I'm not saying. I'm saying of the Republicans, if you're a Republican and you get at least 49% of the Catholic vote, you're going to win. Right. Ronald Reagan in 1984 got 61%. And Trump is on track, according to the Democracy Institute, to get 66%.
Amazing.
Only Kennedy and Johnson ever did better. Any president ever did better. Okay, so that's 5 points better than Reagan's 49 state sweep.
Wow.
And even allowing what the media says, that the Catholics have voted for the winner in 9 of the last 10. And that one was when, I think it was definitely, it was in 2000. In 2000, Bush did not get more votes, Catholic votes, than Gore. But he won anyway. But that's the only fly in that ointment.
Sure.
So, I mean, these are never miss numbers. So you have 7.9. Wait a minute. What is it? Yeah, 7.8% unemployment, which is lower than when Obama got reelected in 12.
Right.
The approval numbers for Trump bounce around at 49 to 52. All right, at 49, it's 3 points higher than Obama got when he got reelected, and when Clinton got reelected, and certainly higher than when Bush got reelected. Okay.
Right. Sure.
So now this is the blockbuster that's coming up now. I'm going to give the blockbuster. A couple of weeks ago, as they do every quarter, towards the end of the quarter, the Atlanta office of the Federal Reserve releases its tentative guesstimate of what the previous quarter's gross domestic product, GDP, will be. The Atlanta Fed first said that it would be 31.7. Then they came back a few days later and said, no, upon further review, as in a football game, we're going to make that 32. So let me put that in perspective, too. If a sitting president is in the White House when a GDP of 5% comes in, that is cause to go out in the streets and do the happy dance. 5%. 5% equals happy dance. So what is 32%? All right, well, and then I read some panicky stuff from the media. Well, it's not that high. I mean, they say, other Fed officers are saying more like 16 or 20. All right, fine. Yeah. So if you do the happy dance for 5%, what are you supposed to do if it's 16%? And don't forget, almost nobody, less than 0.5% of this country would understand the difference. But they would understand that the difference between 5% and 16%. So nobody is going to be disappointed if it's 16%, but it's not going to be. It's going to be closer to something in the upper 20s.